Hey everybody, Jake here from Bearded Gear. I just wrapped up my full review on the Benchmade Super Freek, and I said in that review I was going to find some more things to do with this knife out here today. So this is going to be my kind of field testing video. Frankly, I've already used this knife a fair bit. I've used it for what I would consider like the full extent of my EDC knife type of tasks, which would be extensive cardboard cutting, paracord and like strings and stuff like that, zip ties. I've put this knife through a few zip ties, a couple of which were like the real thick, heavy duty ones. And this knife did great for all of that. Out here, I've used it just a little bit for some minor trail clearing. Like literally, imagine this is growing over the trail, like cutting through fairly minimal stuff like this. This is green and soft and wet, and it's like, it's not a big deal to cut through at all. So that type of stuff, I wouldn't consider like any kind of test of the knife. If I had a knife in virtually any steel in construction, it better be able to cut through stuff like that. So where things get a little more intense would be stuff like, see if I can show this to you. This is thicker, it's brown, it's a little harder. So this would be like a real light duty knife. This isn't something that it should necessarily be expected to do, but that worked great. That's no problem. This is M4 blade steel. It's ground well, it's a reasonable stock thickness. It should be able to do stuff like that. What I'm not expecting this knife to do is like chopping tasks, and I mean, it's kind of unfair. I guess I maybe should, like with my Benchmade Bailout, which is 3V blade steel, but thinner in every way, smaller, lighter than this knife. I expected that knife to literally like do some chopping and stuff. I did a chopping test with that. So I suppose I should do that with this just to be fair, but maybe it's just the way that this knife feels to me and like the aesthetics of it. This knife in my collection is not going to be one of my go-to outdoorsy knives. It's just, to me, will I take it out here sometimes? Yeah, but I have other knives that I like better for that. Like if I want a hard use about this size outdoor folder on me, it's going to be my Shaman in Rex 45. The way that that knife is designed ergonomically, the way it fits in my hand, the thickness of that blade stock, most importantly probably, makes it feel sturdier. I don't know whether it would actually be stronger in a real test per se, but it feels thicker, specifically in the blade, than this does. So I expect more from that knife in certain ways. Now, what I do need to make sure that this knife is capable of doing is trail clearing. Because if I carry this knife, it's not going to be on like a camp out type of excursion where I'm like feather sticking and fire starting and that kind of stuff. It would just be the knife that's in my pocket for when I'm going through thick stuff on a trail or off a trail and need to clear a little section. And this knife can absolutely do that. It's fully capable of tasks like that. So I don't know if this is going to be the best testing video, but let me find another spot where I can do at least, I'll find something that's a little too thick to just hack through in one swipe that I can actually kind of chop through. And right here, there looks like there's some good stuff. Perfect. Yeah, I'm going to spin you around. There's this nice thick bush thing, tree, I don't know what this is, and these things grow like crazy. I keep getting spooked out too. There's this, I don't know if you've seen True Detective or season 2 or 3 of Riverdale, but there's that like pile of sticks there that looks kind of like a totem. I don't know, it's weird. Anyway, I'm gonna turn you around right here, and we are gonna do a little bit of some chop, cut, etc. testing on this tree bush thing. It's gonna be fun. All right, so I hope I'm fully in frame here. I'm just gonna hack at some of this stuff, start a little bit smaller. That's a tiny little twig. And just, that wasn't exactly what I was going for, but yeah, the grind on this knife, I'll say, is one of its strengths. It really cuts into material super well, and not just like slicey little tasks, which it does great. It's great at cutting through tape on a package and all that kind of stuff, but it's also, it's ground really well for like pushing into medium density materials like this wood and stuff. I really like it quite a bit. Let's see. I'm gonna try, that broke, but I'm gonna cut it higher up. Just give it some chops. Well, that didn't work because it broke higher up, but it's chopping there too. That's how you know I'm real. I'm showing you the stuff that's not going well too. Let's. That was great, actually. Yeah, so I'm chopping in. This stuff is frankly fairly wet. It's not like hardwood or anything like that, but some of these guys are pretty thick. That's a spider. Not anymore. And this does great for it. Chops in no problem. It's biting, not having any kind of deformation or rolling on the edge. Every time I check this, I've been like really worried about this knife because I've seen some people not just say, but demonstrate in some of their testing that they had like really burnt up edges that just weren't holding until they were a significant number of sharpenings into the knife. And I've been really pleasantly surprised that mine doesn't appear to suffer that same fate. It's been very good. Nothing about this edge has felt inconsistent with my expectations of M4 blade steel. So apparently I'm one of the lucky ones. But yeah. So let me see if I can find a way to show this to you. This is fairly thick. It's much thicker than my thumb. And it's not super hardwood. It's still living, so it's somewhat green, but this just handles stuff like that, no problem. So I guess maybe I've been a little unfair to this knife. It's not that I don't expect this knife to excel. Here, let me turn you back around. All right, as I was saying, it's not that I don't expect this knife to excel at stuff like that. It's just more of a question of like, what do I really have planned for this knife? I think sometimes we get locked into a bubble of buying only gear that we think will be ultra capable. Like, I've been guilty in the past of passing on knives because even though I find them exciting or cool, in sometimes a number of ways, I don't buy them because I don't trust that they'll be able to do like really hard use stuff like that. Now, it's all about where you draw the line of your expectations, I guess, for a certain piece of gear. And this one certainly should be, and I think is, capable of all of the hard use, realistic folder tasks that I would ask a knife to do out here. Even if I needed to baton into some wood in an emergency, this would foreseeably work great for it. But I've also come to a point where I have a lot of knives, like quite a few, sincerely. I generally keep about 20 knives in my collection that are like really in my rotation of carry, and they can have a variety of uses at that point. If you have one knife that you're picking as your do everything EDC knife, and you like hiking, so it has to be able to perform outdoors, and you go camping, so it's got to be able to do campsite type tasks and all that, then you have to buy a knife to suit all of those needs at once. So it's got to be super overbuilt probably. It's got to be stronger than you need it to be for the lowest end tasks so that it can suit the highest end tasks. I don't necessarily look at knives that way anymore. I can buy a light duty EDC knife that just looks cool and is lightweight and fun to carry, or it can have a whole variety of features that make it exciting or unique in any way, and I can justify it because I have other knives that can do really hard tasks. So when I purchased this knife, my vision for it, what I anticipated using it for, was just hard EDC tasks. I didn't envision it necessarily being a regular outdoor carry for me. I think that was more in my head than what this knife is really capable of. This knife, in terms of its composition, should be capable of anything that my Spyderco Shaman is capable of. But to me, the Shaman already fits that role. It just already does it, and it's already the knife I've chosen to kind of do all of those things with. So my point is not that this knife is in any way incapable. In fact, if you just watch those little bits of testing that I did, it's a very capable knife. And I've been pleasantly surprised with it in a lot of ways. I'll say, in terms of its abilities as an EDC knife and an outdoor knife, this is a better slicer for EDC tasks than my Shaman is, for sure. But the Shaman just feels like my knife for this. So I guess this was to prove that this knife is capable of it, but maybe this is a worthwhile conversation for some of you to hear, that not every knife has to do everything, and that can be fine. Even if it's capable of it, doesn't mean I have to use it for that. This is going to be way more knife than I need for any EDC task. And that's great to know that if this is the knife that's in my pocket, there shouldn't be a single thing I come across in an average daily activity that it won't be able to handle. In fact, it should be able to handle more. So that's a cool thing to me. This is overbuilt for an EDC, and it's appropriately built for a real outdoor use folder, in my opinion, based on the experiences I've had with it already and knowing what it's made of. This knife is totally capable out here. So take all of that for what it's worth. I don't know how much sense that made at the end of the day, but hopefully it's beneficial to you. Super Freek is a sweet knife. Genuinely really cool. Watch my full review if you haven't. It's a knife that I think people should give attention to if they haven't. I think if you find yourself having similar tastes to me in the way that I look at and use and appreciate knives, this is one that definitely needs to be on your radar. A lot of you probably already have them. I'm late to the game on it, but it's a sweet piece. So this has been fun. It's always fun to chop stuff, whether you need to or not. So I'll talk to you guys soon. I'm sure it won't be long until I've got another knife to test out here.